I lived in the United States for 31 years. I raised 4 American children. I fixed your cars, paid my taxes, never asked for a single thing. And when my wife, an American citizen, was dying, they deported me. When she died, they wouldn't let me go back to say goodbye. Let me tell you what it's like to lose everything in a single morning and not even be allowed to bury the person you loved most. But let me start at the beginning. I was born in Salvatierra, Guanajuato, small city, colonial streets, dust in the air in summer. My father built our house brick by brick. I grew up knowing how engines worked before I knew how to read well. At 20, I was already the best mechanic in the shop where I worked. Then the shop closed. I had a wife, 2 daughters, and a mother with diabetes who needed medicine every month. My cousin Ernesto sent a letter from Chicago. Said there was work, real work, paid in dollars. The night before I left, my daughter Lorena was 2 years old, sleeping in her crib. I stood at the door of her room at 4 in the morning, in the dark, watching her breathe. I didn't wake her to say goodbye. I couldn't. My wife Dolores was waiting at the front door. She had decided not to cry. She just looked at me and said, Ve, y no te olvides de regresar. Go, and don't forget to come back. I thought she meant, come back with money. Come back and bring us with you. I didn't know then what that phrase really meant. I'd understand 35 years later. The first attempt failed. Border Patrol caught us after 6 hours and sent me back. The second time, I paid $2,800 to a coyote who took 11 of us through the Arizona desert. Second night out there, still 42 degrees at 11 at night. A man from Michoacan, Isidro, fell to the ground in convulsions from the heat. The coyote said, leave him, déjenlo, like leaving a stone. I stayed. I gave him the last water I had. I put his head on my lap and waited. The others disappeared into the dark like shadows. Do you know what that silence sounds like? Desert silence at midnight, a man convulsing beside you, nobody coming. I thought, I'm going to die here, next to a man I met 2 days ago, and nobody will know. Isidro survived. I arrived the next day, alone, no water, a 7-centimeter cut on my right arm from barbed wire. I never found out what happened to him after that. I still dream about his face in the sand, sometimes. I arrived in Cicero, Illinois, September 1989, 31 years old. 6 people in 3 rooms at my cousin's apartment. I wash dishes for $3.25 an hour. When November came, I saw snow for the first time. I stopped on the sidewalk and stood there 10 minutes. Couldn't move. The first time I sent money home, $600. Dolores called crying. She said, "Aurelio, the girls have shoes now." That's what it cost. $600. 1 pair of shoes each, and medicine for my mother. In 1998, I walked into Kowalski & Sons Auto Repair at 4817 West Cermak Road in Cicero. Stan Kowalski looked at me for 30 seconds and said, "You fix cars or you talk?" I went to the first car in line. A transmission sitting there for 3 days. 2 hours later, it was fixed. Stan put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You start Monday." It was already Monday. I said, "I already started." 19 years at that garage. 7 to 5, Monday through Saturday. $22 an hour at the end. I trained 14 mechanics. 2 opened their own shops. The guy started calling me El Profe. I pretended not to like it. I liked it. Now I need to tell you about Karen. 1991. A Jewel Osco supermarket. My English was basic. The cashier, a young woman with light brown hair and patient eyes, saw I was confused and said 3 words to me in Spanish. Broken Spanish, but Spanish. I thought she made an effort for me. Her name was Karen Louise Peterson, daughter of Danish immigrants, born in Rockford, Illinois. We married in 1993, and in 31 years, Karen never once made me feel like less. Not once. She learned to cook Mexican food better than my mother. She packed my lunch every single day. Tortilla with beans, fruit, and a handwritten note. 31 years. She never forgot the note. We had 4 children. Daniel, 1995. Patricia, 1997. Kevin, 2001. Rosa, 2004. All four born in Cicero. All four Americans. We lived at 1423 South 57th Court for 21 years. The Gutierrez family downstairs, Halina Bednar's upstairs, who made us pierogi at Christmas. I remember Christmas 2003. Rosa, 11 months old, on the table. Daniel and Patricia fighting over the remote. Kevin asleep on the sofa. Karen serving turkey. The apartment smelling like tamales and cinnamon. I stood at the kitchen doorway, just looking. Karen turned and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Looking." She said, "Come look from here." I walked in. 31 years later, from a room in Salvatierra. That's the memory I protect most. But I need to tell you something I'm ashamed of. In 1994, we started the green card process through Karen. A bureaucrat entered my name as Mendoza instead of Mendoza. One letter. The process restarted. Got tangled again. And I kept telling myself it would resolve itself. That with Karen being American, with 4 American kids, they weren't going to touch me. I left it for tomorrow for 30 years. In 2022, the process was closed administratively. A policy change. The notification went to an old address. I never received it. By the time our lawyer found out, in November 2023, Karen had already been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I need to tell you about 2016, a gas station in Berwyn. Kevin was 15, in the back seat. A young man shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. 3 customers, my co-worker Jimmy, everyone. "Go back to Mexico." I didn't respond. Filled the tank, paid, got in the car. Kevin asked, "Why didn't you say anything, Dad?" I drove 2 blocks to a side street and stopped. Hands on the wheel. Kevin didn't say a word. We never talked about it again. Have you ever been humiliated in front of your own child and not been able to say a word because you know any reaction could make things worse for you? That fear follows you everywhere. That silence, I taught myself. I think it cost me everything. January 22nd, 2024, 7:14 in the morning. I was pulling into the parking lot of Kowalski and Sons. Karen was in the hospital. 9 days into her second round of chemo. She was weak, but she'd had a nurse come to the apartment the night before to prepare my lunch. Tortilla with beans. A note that said, "Te amo, Ogi. Come back to me soon." I had the lunchbox in my hand when two ICE agents in a civilian car blocked my space. One on my left, one on my right. "Mr. Mendoza, Aurelio Mendoza Cienfuegos, you need to come with us. My wife is in the hospital. Can I call her first?" "Sir, you can make calls from the facility." My hands went cold. Legs kept walking, but I couldn't feel the ground. Stan was running out of the garage 30 meters away. Didn't make it. Jimmy Okafor stood frozen in the parking lot, keys in hand. I left the lunchbox on the hood of my car, got in the ICE vehicle. Through the rear window, I saw Stan pick up the lunchbox with both hands. That was the last image I have of Cicero. 9 days at McHenry County Correctional. 14 people in a cell. Cold all the time. 21 cents a minute for phone calls. I called Karen every day. She picked up each time, weak from the chemo, and said, "I'm here, Ogi. I'm here." Patricia and Daniel came on the 27th. Karen was hospitalized, couldn't come. I saw my children through plexiglass. I said to Daniel, "Take care of your sisters. Take care of your mother." He nodded, couldn't speak. I said to Patricia, "Don't stop trying, but take care of your mother first." Her jaw was clenched tight. She's done that since she was little, when she's trying not to cry. Then Patricia held her phone up to the divider. Karen from her hospital bed. "Go on, Ogi. I'll get better, and I'll come get you." I held the phone against the glass, as if she could hear better that way. We both knew it wasn't true. She said what I needed to hear to get on the plane. She was protecting me. Until the last second, she was protecting me. The last image I have of that visit is Patricia's hand pressed flat against the divider. I put my hand up on my side, palm to palm. 3 centimeters of plastic between us. January 31st. Handcuffed with 23 other deportees. O'Hare to Leon, Guanajuato. 1 black backpack. 3 work shirts. Documents. A family photo from Christmas 2019. Karen's wedding ring Patricia had bought it because Karen knew I wasn't wearing it in detention, afraid to lose it. $340 in my pocket. Karen died on March 14th, 2024, 43 days after I was deported. In her last days of clear consciousness, she dictated and signed a document addressed to ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, asking that her husband be allowed to return temporarily to be with her in her final days, to attend the funeral. A nurse notarized it. Patricia filed it in person in Chicago on March 8th. Karen died on the 14th. The ICE response arrived on the 17th. Denied. Do you understand what I'm telling you? My wife, an American citizen, used the last strength she had to beg the government to let her husband say goodbye. And they said no. 3 days after she was already buried, they said no. Patricia called me at 6:17 in the morning. I was sitting on the edge of a bed at my relative's house. I stayed in that same spot for 4 hours without speaking. The funeral was March 16th, St. Stephen's Catholic Church, the same church where I used to read at Sunday Mass. Daniel filmed it on his phone and sent it to me. I watched it 3 times. On the 3rd time, I paused it when the coffin passed through the church door. I sat there with my finger on the screen, as if I could hold something. Now I'm in Salvatierra, 14 months. I fix cars and motorcycles for neighbors, $200 a month. In Illinois, I earn $3,800. I wake at 6 because my body still doesn't know how not to. Coffee alone. Check the phone. Always waiting for a message from the kids. My grandson Marcus is 4. He's never met me in person. He calls me the telephone grandpa. My granddaughter Lily is 2, born after I was deported. I know her only from photos. Daniel calls every Sunday. Patricia calls twice a week, still fighting with the lawyer. Kevin sends texts in English that I read slowly with the translator. Rosa sends photos, only photos. Sometimes I manage to respond with a heart. Sometimes I can't. I paid $94,000 in taxes over 31 years. Never received a single public benefit. I sent more than $100,000 back to Mexico over those years. I trained 14 mechanics, fixed thousands of cars. And in the end, I couldn't be there for the one person who mattered most. When I think about what Karen said, "Go on, Ogie, I'll get better and I'll come get you," I used to hear it as a promise. Now I understand what it really was. It was a gift. The last thing she could give me. A way to help me walk to that car and get on that plane without coming apart. She wasn't promising to come get me. She was saying, "I love you enough to let you go with something to hold on to." And Dolores, 35 years before, "Ve, y no te olvides de regresar. Don't forget to come back." I think she meant, don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you came from. Don't let them make you small. I didn't forget. Not once in 31 years. I still wear Karen's ring. I'm not taking it off. My name is Aurelio Mendoza Cienfuegos, 67 years old, born in Salvatierra, Guanajuato, 31 years in the United States, 4 American children, 2 grandchildren I've never held, and a woman buried in Cicero, Illinois, who deserved better than what that government gave her at the end. If this story moved you, share it. There are thousands of Aurelios, thousands of Karens who signed documents that meant nothing, thousands of grandchildren who only know their grandparents from a phone screen. And I want to leave you with one question. If your father had lived in the United States for 31 years, raised 4 American children, and his wife, a US citizen, signed documents from her deathbed asking for him to say goodbye, and they still said no, what would you have done?